there's a few more people here, we're just going to start. Thank you for coming to Safe and Aware's first virtual self-defense panel. We really appreciate your support and your being here. And we're really excited to be welcoming our first guest speaker, Rasche, focusing on the topic of active shooter response.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm super excited to be participating, and thank you so much for inviting me. I do have a PowerPoint I'm going to share, if that's okay. If anybody has any questions at any time, just feel free to chime in. We're going to be talking today about active shooter in the school setting. Just a little background about me. I'm the director over emergency management and public safety at Northwestern Hospital in Arlington Heights. So I've been teaching about active shooter and all sorts of other safety types of situations for just about 25 years now. So I'm super excited for today. I do also have my son, Shane, with me. He's 13. And so he was is looking forward to participating as well. Looks like I can't share my screen at the moment.
Let me. Okay, can you do it now?
Let me give it a try. Yep. All right. Okay, so let me just start this here. All right. Can everybody see the screen okay? Awesome. Yep. Okay. Oops. All right. So active shooter by definition is an individual who is, hang on a second, let me just, engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined or populated area. And active shooter situations are unpredictable. They evolve quickly. And immediate intervention of law enforcement obviously is required, but there are some things that we're going to talk about today that can help mitigate or intervene if you are found in one of those situations. Hopefully you never will be, but hopefully you'll walk away today with just some tips and tricks. You can also just, I tell everybody, even though we talk about the school setting, really, these are things that you can take with you everywhere. I've taught my kids and the staff at the hospital when I do that in public sessions, that it doesn't matter if you're in a grocery store, a school, a shopping mall, wherever you might find yourself. It's always important to take some of these tricks with you so that you can help remember to keep yourself safe. Active shooter situations are often over within 10 to 15 minutes, although if you ever find yourself in a situation, it can feel like a lot longer than that. And so it is 10 to 15 minutes also kind of sounds like a long time, but really it isn't. And individuals obviously should try and be prepared mentally and physically to deal with an active shooter situation. Unfortunately, in today's environment, as you all know, we see on the news like every couple times a week lately that there's been different sorts of active shooter situations. And so for you guys who are young and you're in high school and getting ready to go to college, or you're in college, it is important to, unfortunately, keep that in mind all the time. Since 2000, there's been 678 shootings with casualties at elementary and secondary schools, such as high schools and colleges, which, we haven't even heard about all of these in the news, right? But when you start adding up the numbers, it is quite a lot. Numbers show that in school years between 2000 and 2020, the FBI is still collecting data from 2020 to 2022, but there were 11 to 75 shootings with injuries or deaths at public and private elementary and secondary schools each year. Due to the pandemic closures, obviously the numbers between 2019 and 2020 were lower. However, in between 2019 and 2020, there were still 75 school shootings with casualties. Most school shootings with and without injuries or deaths were at high schools in 2019 to 2020. 67 high schools had shootings over the year, and 32 elementary schools did. So that's actually a lot, right? If you start thinking about it. And again, these aren't always in the news. And so I don't think that publicly we're really given a true idea of how many different situations are actually occurring. Oops. Hang on a second. Sorry. In a school setting, what are the personality traits of an active shooter? Obviously, it's somebody who doesn't have a normal psychological profile. It's somebody who's has other things going on. Many times there are events and signs leading up to an active shooter event. And so it's really important if you see something or hear something that you say something. If you hear something in the hallway or you see something on social media, it's really important to make sure that you say something so that it can be properly investigated. Just an example, there was a child at one of the schools in Palatine who was shown a picture of a boy who had what looked like a weapon. And that boy told the students that he was going to shoot him after school. And so the student that saw the picture and was threatened, if you will, went right away to his teacher, who went to the principal of the school, and they were able to intercept the student and stop him. The police got involved right away, and it turned out it was the student who showed the picture of holding the weapon. It was just a BB gun. But it's one of those situations where, if nothing had been said, then it could have been something. And so props to the student who reported it. I know it's really hard, especially when you're young, because you're afraid of getting in trouble or being made fun of or being bullied about saying something. And so those are things that when it comes to that type of situation, we have to not worry about and put behind us, and do the right thing and say something so that we can hopefully prevent an act from happening. In a school setting, it's someone seeking attention. It's somebody who's looking to attack in a populated area. Schools, obviously, there's lots of population there, right? There's lots of opportunity before school, after school, during events. And it's also typically somebody who's directing their anger and rage at one or more person or department. It could be another student. It could be a group of bullies. It could be gang related. It could be towards a teacher that they're mad at. It could simply be somebody who's gotten a hold of a weapon, and maybe they don't start out as intending to create that type of environment, but something leads up to that for that particular day. Shooters often create chaos along the way as part of their plan, such as placing explosives or pulling fire alarms. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into our response. Most of them, although they don't appear to be cowards, they are. That's why they bring a weapon into the school, because that is how they want to deal with that particular situation, right? They don't have the self-confidence to say something or get help. They just take the easy way out and bring a weapon into the school or wherever else they might be. All of them take their own life when confronted by law enforcement, because they know that that's the end of the game for them to begin with. And so many times these individuals are also have some sort of suicidal ideation. And so they want to go down as, in their mind, somebody who's going to be on the news, right? In reality, it's not always that way. High risk areas in schools and campuses, main offices, right? Because that's where all the principal is and the administrators are. Your cafeterias, because that's where there's a large amount of students much of the time. Gymnasiums, outdoor stadiums, parking lots, and parking garages. And again, you can take that with you to wherever you go, right? If you go to a Chicago Bulls game, right, there's large opportunity there. If you go to the mall, there's large opportunities there. I do have a video that I'm going to go ahead and play. Just forewarning, there is some graphic pictures in there. So if you're uncomfortable with that and you don't want to watch it, totally understand if you walk away or just want to not watch. Are you guys okay if I go ahead and play it? Okay. Can you hear it okay?
Yeah, you can.
You can hear it? Okay.
You could probably also put the CCs on, so just in case the feedback is a little.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Campus could become a backdrop to the scene that happens all too often across this country. Sorry about that. Georgia Southern University is home to historic and picturesque landscapes, lifelong traditions, and an array of social and educational opportunities. Your chances of surviving an active shooter incident. An active shooter.
Miss Rasche, if you want to like switch on the subtitles, that might be helpful for everyone to hear.
Alrighty. How do I do that?
The CC little button. Yep, right there.
Oh boy. Sorry, I'm older. I have trouble with technology sometimes.
It's okay.
Try any place at any time. Take 3 important steps. Run. If an active shooter or similar emergency requires campus community. Issue. Message may be brief. Your decision to run, hide, and fight is basically information you know. Might be located within the campus distance. It's your on the Georgia Southern campus, and where you are located on campus. Dispatch centers will be flooded with calls. Oh boy. Information about the shooter, their current location, their description, information about injured or barricaded. happens if you hear gunshots and are unable to get out? The idea is to make it as hard as possible for the shooter to see you or into you. If there is one final reaction that you should only use as a last resort in front of your shooter. Anything to use as a weapon. Just fine. As soon as police are notified of the incident, University Police and local police will be aroused and really know this way. When police enter the area you are in, do exactly. Oops. Sorry. It's visible to the officers. And it's those which are seated. So exit the area and are safe. Be instructed where to go so that emergency medical services and law enforcement officials make sure you are okay and ask you questions. It's scary to think about, but an active shooter is something you probably need to be prepared for. Staff. Time to know your surroundings. It's 2 exits out of your building. Routes into and out of your building, so you get familiar with every possible escape. All right, I don't know what's going on with my technology. I think my Wi-Fi in my house is a little funky, so I apologize for that. But we're just going to continue. This is just one example of one university that has a plan in place. Do you guys right now in school, do you get alerts if there's something going on in your school, or if there's schools canceled for any reason? Or no? Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Most all universities have a system in place, a mass communication system in place to give you notifications. And high schools are starting to go that way with technology, which is great. How to prepare and react. So obviously the first thing, number one thing that you want to do in an active shooter event is evacuate if possible. Know your exits, know how to get in and out of every building. Even like I said before, if you're at the grocery store, you're at the mall, know where your exits are, know what stores you can go into. Leave your belongings behind, right? Our cell phones, our purses, our car keys, everything else like that can be replaced or gotten back at some other point in time. If you can help others escape, do so, but don't put yourself in jeopardy to help somebody. If you know, don't stop and help somebody if it puts your own life in jeopardy, which is really hard to think about, right? Because all of us as humans, we want to make sure that we help other people. But it's really important that you remember you're the number one most important person in that situation. Once you get out, stop anybody else from coming in that you possibly can. So if you see people running by, right, you're going to try and stop them and say, hey, don't go in there, if you can. Do we have a question? I see somebody's hand raised. Okay. So we're going to go back into a little bit more detail in a minute. But once you get out, make sure that you keep your hands visible. If you encounter police officers on your way out, make sure that you follow their rules. Don't attempt to move anybody who's wounded as you're on your way out, and make sure that you call 911 when you're safe. If you can't get out, know where you can go to hide, right? Know what classrooms you can go into, what washrooms you can go into. Know what you can use to block the door. If you go into an area where there's not a lock on the door, know what you can use to block that door open, whether it be desks, chairs, boxes, right? If you go into a mall and you're in a storeroom, know what you can use to move in the way, and just have that awareness all the time. Silence your phone, silence anything else, and that includes turning vibrate off so your phone's completely silent. Know that if you're in an area like Palatine, Rolling Meadows, Arlington Heights, Buffalo Grove, you can actually text message 911, and they will receive that text message, and they have the ability, 911 does, to text message you back. So it's important, if you need to message 911, if you're hiding in a classroom, you send them all that information. I'm at Palatine or Fremd High School, or I'm at Harper College, or wherever you are, and I'm in the 3rd floor, room 7B, so that they know where to come and find you once the situation's secure. Provide protections. You know, if you are hidden in a classroom, go to the back corner of the classroom, hide behind a desk, hide behind a chair, whatever you can. Don't trap yourself or restrict your options from moving. Make sure that you can get out if you know you have the opportunity to do so. And finally, if you can't run and you can't hide, as the video said, you want to make sure that you take action, that you protect yourself, do whatever you can to protect yourself. Know what you can, know what you have to use as a weapon, whether that be a cell phone, a bag, a purse, a laptop. If you throw somebody at somebody's face, what is their normal reaction? Right? They're going to duck, right? Or they're going to block like this. That gives you the opportunity to hide or to run. It takes the human brain 10 to 12 seconds to bring a weapon back up on its target and refocus. And I'm old, but I know in 10 to 12 seconds, I could be out the door and down the street because your adrenaline's pumping. Know that an active shooter, when they're in the event of actively shooting, they get tunnel vision, right? So all they're seeing is just here between their straight in front of them. They're not paying attention to anything that's coming up behind them, anything on the sides of them. And so again, that's opportunity to get behind the person, hit them, use a fire extinguisher, whatever you can do to get away. Don't be afraid that you're going to get in trouble if you encounter an active shooter and you cause harm to them. And you won't, right? And on the opposite of that, if you can get away and you see the active shooter coming, but you know you can get away, don't hesitate to stop to get away. Don't stop, just go, right? When police show up, again, it's important to know that they're there to stop the active shooter. But when they arrive, they don't know who the active shooter is, right? Especially nowadays when people have concealed carry, they're not going to know who the shooter is. They might see somebody with a weapon and just assume that there's more than one. So having said that, if you are stuck in a situation where you're face to face with the active shooter and you take them out, you knock them out with a trash can, their weapon's laying on the floor, right? It's important to not touch that weapon. Don't pick it up, even though you may want to try and protect yourself. Because if you do, what are the police going to think when they arrive? They're going to not know that you just took out that active shooter. They're going to see you with a weapon and they're going to assume that you are the active shooting target, right? So it's important to, kick it away, put a trash can over it, leave it there. The officers are going to go directly to wherever it is that they hear shots fired. So if somebody is on the ground and they're injured, they will walk by you or whomever else it is. And the paramedics will come in after and help anyone who's wounded, but they're not going to stop and help anybody because they want to secure that target before that person does more damage. Officers now, law enforcement officers, and even my security officers at the hospital, they don't wait for additional backup. So as soon as the first officer arrives, they're taught to go in right away and help out. We've seen in the past in some of the school shootings, right, where people have passed away because officers have been waiting for other backup to come, and that's no longer how they are trained, which is great for us, right? They're going to go in right away. Police departments and even my security officers, and you'll see on school campuses, every high school campus has at least one police officer, and every college campus, most all college campuses have police departments. So there are plenty of people there that have the proper tools and equipment to come in and help in any situation. You're going to see when they come in, they're going to be armed with all sorts of rifles and things. They're going to shout and yell and scream. It's important to just put your hands up and follow their rules. If you are barricaded in a room, right, and somebody is banging on the door saying they're a police officer, are you going to open the door? No. If someone is banging on the door and saying, I'm your best friend, Susie, are you going to open the door? No. When law enforcement arrives, they're either going to have a key to enter the room that you're in, or you're going to get a message of some sort, or you're going to hear an overhead announcement of some sort, letting you know that it's okay to come out. If somebody's banging on the door and they're saying they're a police officer, let's say, and they maybe don't have a key, right? They're waiting for somebody with a key. You can text message. Again, if you're in, Woodfield Mall, or you're at the high school, or you're around Palatine, Arlington Heights, all of those counties around us, you can text message 911 saying, hey, there's somebody banging on my door and they say they're a police officer and I don't know. You'll hear that dispatcher come across that police officer's radio and say, there's a student who's, just confirming you're at this door, and you'll know then that it's okay to open the door. If you're going away to college, somewhere else, it's important to, just call the police department and say, hey, do you have text message technology through 911? A lot of different dispatch centers, they don't announce that they have it, right? They don't promote it for whatever reason. I think it's important feature to know and understand. And as technology progresses, a lot of 911 dispatch centers are getting that capability because they know that most young people, they just like to text message because it's easier. And that is a new modern way to communicate. It's important to remain calm, whether you run, whether you hide, whether you're fighting. As hard as it is, it's important to remain calm. When law enforcement arrives, again, it's important, put down any items that you have in your hands. Officers are also tunnel vision when they're responding because their adrenaline's pumping. So they might see a cell phone in your hand and in their mind, it's a weapon, or a backpack in your hand. And so it's important to, again, leave everything behind and get to safety. Keep your hands visible all the time. As much as you may want to jump out and hug the officer for rescuing you, it's important not to do that because, again, they won't know if you're there to cause harm or if, you are a victim. It's important to avoid, as I said, making any quick movements. Police officers, again, they don't know if you're there to cause harm or to as a victim. Avoid pointing, yelling, screaming, stay in place. until instructed to do otherwise. If you're hiding, stay in place until you're instructed to get out. And I know I keep repeating myself, but it's really important to remember that. If you're hiding and the fire alarm goes off, are you going to come out? No, right? Unless you feel smoke or feel heat or smell smoke, stay hidden. The people responding to come and help you will give you clear instruction on what to do. And they won't give you that clear instruction until they're sure that you're going to be safe. Some topics to contemplate, right? You guys are young, and you all have friends and good friends, right? And in your mind, would it be difficult to leave your friends behind, knowing that something could happen to them? Yes, right? Most attacks are directed at anyone a shooter can find. So somebody may go into a school, a mall, or wherever the case may be, and maybe they're mad at one teacher or they're mad at one student. They're going to make victim anyone who gets in their way. And so again, it's important, barricade yourself in. If your door is barricaded, even if it's not locked, an active shooter is not going to take the time to break down the door. They're going to hit that doorknob. And if that door doesn't fly open, they're going to continue going on to the next room, because again, that 10 to 15 minute time frame, right, for the length of that active shooter event is a short period of time. And so they're not going to waste a minute breaking in a door to get to somebody. If they can't find their intended target, they're just going to keep going. And so ethically, how do you leave those people behind? How do you walk away knowing that somebody that you know is left in that situation? What do you guys think? How would you feel?
Does anyone want to say? Don't be shy.
I would probably feel really sad and really scared for them.
Absolutely, right? And then afterwards, know that it's difficult to have to deal with that situation. That is something that it's going to affect you regardless the rest of your life. But know that you guys are the number one most important person, because you guys have your whole lives ahead of you. And when I teach at the hospital, I talk to the nurses and the NICU nurses, we have to leave these babies behind. I have to leave my patients behind. Even me, I would have to leave my officers behind. Yes, as hard as that is, but I have kids at home that I have to think about. You all have the rest of your lives in front of you. And it sounds really bad of me to say, right? Leave somebody else behind to be injured. But the reality is, you risking your own life to save one person is a hard ethical thing to think about, but is that worth it? Right? And so it is something, especially as young people, you really have to keep that in your mind. Nobody is going to think anything differently of you. No one's going to think bad of you if you make the decision to leave other people behind and go to rescue yourself. Again, moral issues, survival is the number one most important thing. Hide and lock yourself in. Don't let other people in, even if they're banging on the door. And I know I sound like a broken record. I keep repeating myself, but I want to make sure how important you guys understand that you are, and how important it is that you understand to make sure that you are the number one most important person to keep safe in these events. Key number one takeaways. Remember, as I said before, you are the number one most important person. Always know your exits. So some homework for you, should you choose to do it, although I know you already have a ton of homework all the time. But when you go into school, or when you go into a campus tour for college, just kind of always look around, know your exits, practice going into school a different way, practice taking a different stairwell from one class to another, practice walking down a different hallway than you would normally go down. And what that does is it trains your brain for your body to respond. So if you are stuck in an event, whether it be an active shooter or a fire or a tornado or whatever the case may be, and you have to evacuate, if you always only go the same way, because humans are creatures of habit, and we tend to always go the same way, because we know that route. What happens if that route is blocked, right? We don't want to panic. We want to make sure that we know that we have other options and other routes. Know what stairwells exit to the outside. And once you get outside, know where those stairwells go to. And I know at schools, right, they go through active shooter drills with you and lockdown drills with you, and they give you instruction to do this or that. I have taught my kids and their friends, we live 8 houses down behind the school that they go to. If there's an active shooter event and you get outside, you all just come to our house, and, you take your friends inside and you text and let us know that you're safe. You text and let your teachers know that you're safe, because again, everybody has text technology. And so you're not going to get expelled if you get to your car and you get off campus. You're not going to get in trouble. Just remember that, it is important that you stay safe and always have a plan again, right? So if this exit's blocked, I'm going to go here. If I can't get out, I'm going to go to the back of the classroom. Know where the light switches are in the classroom. I'm not sure how it is in your schools, but I know most all schools now have little either blinds, or they have felt or some sort of mechanism to block the windows and the doors for those doors that still have windows. And most classroom doors, I think, lock now, but even make sure that you close the windows to the outside. Or if you're on a first floor classroom, don't hesitate to find something to break the window and get out and just go. It's important to remember that, windows and things like that can be replaced. And you're not going to get in trouble for breaking a window to get out of an area that you need to make sure that you're safe. That is the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or what do you guys want to talk about?
Actually, just a quick thing before we do the Q&A, would it be okay if we get a group picture?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes, everyone could just flash on their cameras for a second. Only of course, if they're comfortable, we can just take a quick pic.
Yep. Let's see. Oh. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Sorry. Let me try one more time. Okay. Screenshots are a little.
They're difficult.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I think I got it.
So I see a couple things in the. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Rasche, for this wonderful presentation. I think it was filled with a lot of knowledge that, I personally haven't been taught before, because unfortunately our schools, they don't do as much as an in-depth, comprehensive presentation about active shooter awareness.
Yeah.
Much anymore, even though it's something that we see time and time again in the news. So if we could all if you guys are willing to unmute yourself and give a round of applause for Ms. Rasche, I think it was good.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. I think, I think it's great that Nadia and Rhea, I think you guys are amazing. I think it's awesome that you're doing this type of thing, because the reality is I don't think that young people truly get all of the training and education and skills that they really need to make sure that they're safe, especially in today's world. When I was your age, the biggest things to worry about was who was smoking on the corner of the campus and what we were going to have for lunch junior and senior year when we were allowed to go off campus. We didn't have things like active shooter were, not really heard of. And there was a lot more help for people with mental health. And it was, we just didn't have those things to worry about. And I think you guys are, you're young. I have two younger kids and a 20-year-old. And I just think it's important that, you guys have the skills you need to stay safe in today's environment. Hopefully it won't always be that way, but unfortunately currently it just is. And, but I think the two of you are amazing for putting this group together, and all the young people on here are very fortunate to have you as a resource. So congratulations to you. I think that you deserve a round of applause as well for everything that you do. So I'm giving it to you.
Thank you.
For sure.
I think if anyone has like any questions they would like to ask Mrs. Rasche, or any comments in particular, feel free to ask them right now.
Actually, I have like a quick one right now. Are there any good resources to refer to regarding active shooter response or self-defense in general that you'd recommend to refer to?
Yeah, so if you're looking for like stats and things like that, the FBI actually has a lot of good resource and tools on their website. I can also email you some links to different websites for self-defense and for active shooter, and you can share them as you wish if that would work. And then also, of course, the Woods at the JP Woods put on a really good self-defense seminar a couple times a year. So that's also a great resource. But I'll share some links with you today that you can post if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
What is the chance of this happening to us?
So it's a very slim chance, less than 10% chance of that happening. As of right now, right? But as we're seeing that those percentages are increasing, as resources for mental health decrease, the percentage of that chance happening increases. Unfortunately, we're starting to see it hit closer to home with like the Highland Park shooting. And so, I don't want anyone to walk away afraid that this is going to happen to them. It is a slim chance currently. And so the best way to combat that is to get ahead of it, right? And so as we kind of started the presentation out, it's really important if you see something or hear something to say something so that the proper resources can get involved and prevent it. Because what they don't show, what the FBI and what the news and the media don't show is how many times events are prevented, right? When people do the right thing and say something, or when they see something.
Okay,
That's a
thank
good question.
Sanjana, if you want to ask your question.
What do you do if you're in the bathroom and the active shooter's like on your floor?
So if the bathroom, like if the main bathroom door locks, lock the main bathroom door. If it doesn't, lock the door to the stall and then stand up, as bad as it sounds, stand up on the toilet so no feet can be seen, and just be as quiet as possible. Because again, if the main bathroom door doesn't lock, they'll open the bathroom door and look in. If they don't see feet, they're just going to keep going. Good question. Very good question.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? No need to like feel shy. This is a safe space. Well, in that case, I actually had a question. So I know that Mrs. Rasche, you are the Director of Security and Communications at the Northwest Community Hospital. I was just wondering, in your time there, have you dealt with like what is your experience with this? Have you had any experiences, and how did you handle it?
So we have not had any active shooter events directly, if you will. We have had patients who have suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation with knives on our campus. And so one particular event, this was probably 15 years ago, took place outside of our ER. And so we shut down all of the traffic to the ER. We locked the door so that the individual couldn't come inside. And myself and my officers did the best we could to try and verbally de-escalate the person, right? Because that's another option. If you see somebody with a weapon, and they're not actively harming anybody, it's an opportunity for us to talk to that person and try to calm them down. And we called the police for backup because we don't carry guns on our campus at the hospital. And they brought in the SWAT team and took care of the situation. Nobody was hurt, including the individual that was on campus. And we're very thankful that in each encounter that we have had with somebody with a weapon, that we were able to either verbally de-escalate or get the weapon away from the individual before they harmed themselves or somebody else. Although, we have a large campus and healthcare, people can be combative and upset. We see a lot of mental health. And so we do a lot of training. We do a lot of preparation. We have stop the bleed kits on all of our campuses. So it has tourniquets and other things in them. I think some of the schools are starting to get those stop the bleed kits. And so through those experiences, we have adapted to and added to our training, which is kind of cool. I have partnered with the Arlington Heights Police Department. And so very soon, we will be putting some training out there to the public, and I'll send you guys the information on that once I get it. But we'll be doing joint public active shooter training and stop the bleed training that will go through how to use tourniquets and all sorts of other things like that. So I'll make sure to share that with you in case anybody here is interested in participating.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
Do we have any other questions?
Also, if you could, I use the flashlight on my phone to shine it through the thing.
You just have to flip over the.
Wasn't bright enough, so I used it need battery. So I used.
Sam, do you have a question? Or are you just accidentally unmuted? Okay, so thank you so much again for this wonderful presentation and for the Q&A. I also just want to thank everyone for showing up today. I know it's a Saturday and I know it's pretty early in terms of, Saturday, everyone wants to like sleep in. But thank you again to everyone. Please definitely do follow our social media. I will put our Instagram handle in the chat. And please also subscribe to our website, safeandaware.blog. Again, I will put those in the chat. Take a look at it and please spread the word.
Yeah, and also right before we go, I just figured out how to get like more people to show on my screen for the Zoom. So we're gonna be doing another group picture. And if you could turn on your cameras for that, we'd really appreciate it. Just wait a few seconds for everyone to turn it on.
Just a quick flash, guys.
Just really quick. Any more people turning it on?
It's okay if you're like still in your bed or anything. You know, this is just no judgment space.
We won't judge. It's a Saturday morning. Okay. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you so much for coming, and we really appreciate it. Hope to see you guys at our next event. And thank you, Ms. Rasche, for coming and speaking at our event. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you guys. Everybody have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.